All right, so get cozy, everyone, because tonight we are diving into some listener-submitted stories.
Ooh, exciting.
That's right. These are all about strange encounters while out in the wilderness.
I love it.
Yeah, so we're talking unsettling voices,
Hmm.
unexplained symbols, even a run-in with someone that will have you thinking twice about what's lurking off the trail.
Oh my gosh.
So are you ready to deep dive into the unknown?
Absolutely. Let's do it.
Okay, let's start with a story from Ethan and Danny.
Okay.
They're experienced campers exploring the remote beaches of Vancouver Island.
Oh, wow. I've heard amazing things about Vancouver Island.
Oh, it is beautiful.
Yeah.
It's, the kind of place where the forest meets the ocean and isolation feels like a warm blanket
Yeah.
until it doesn't.
Right, until it doesn't.
Yeah.
That's a good point because that isolation is key in a lot of these encounters, I find.
Oh, for sure.
It really kind of sets the scene. It amplifies your senses,
Yeah.
You become hyper aware of your surroundings.
You're on edge. Yeah, exactly. And maybe it makes you more susceptible to experiences that lie outside, our normal range of perception.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
So Ethan and Danny are enjoying their campfire.
Okay.
When they meet Leon, another camper from New Zealand, they're sharing stories, some wine. It's all very idyllic.
Very nice.
But as dusk settles in, the atmosphere takes a turn.
Dusk is interesting. It's always held this special significance in folklore and mythology. It's like this time when the shadows lengthen and the familiar world takes on this uncanny quality.
That in-between time.
Yeah, exactly. Psychologically, too, it's a time when our senses are adjusting to the fading light,
Right.
which, can make us more prone to misinterpretations.
Makes sense. It's like our brains are primed for spooky stories as soon as the sun dips below the horizon.
Absolutely.
Well, for Ethan and Danny, it wasn't just stories. They start hearing distinct female voices coming from the bushes behind their campsite.
Okay, so multiple voices right away, that adds a layer of complexity. It's
Exactly.
less likely to be, a lone animal or a trick of the wind. Right.
And what's really interesting is that all three campers, including Leon, hear these voices initially.
Oh, wow. So this isn't just, one person's imagination running wild.
Exactly.
Right. But as darkness deepens, Leon heads back to his van, leaving Ethan and Danny alone with these unsettling voices. They try to find a logical source, like a boat offshore or other campers, but they find nothing.
The inability to find a rational explanation, that's really where the true mystery begins.
Oh, yeah.
Because that's the point where a strange sound transforms into something potentially unnerving.
Right. So they hunker down by the fire, hoping the voices will fade away. Eventually, they try to get some sleep, but around 3 a.m., things escalate dramatically.
Oh no!
Yeah, they wake up to distinct footsteps circling their tent, and then right outside,
This is where the story shifts from unsettling to downright bizarre.
loud voices. But not just any voices. It's described as this rapid-fire gibberish, a language they couldn't understand at all.
Wow.
And get this, these voices are moving through dense undergrowth in complete darkness, without any lights, and making practically no noise.
It's like they're floating.
Right.
That's really strange. What makes this so compelling is the combination of multiple witnesses and the sheer inexplicability of the voice's behavior.
Right.
It's not just spooky sounds, it's a pattern that defies easy explanation. It raises questions about the nature of sound perception and maybe even the possibility of communication that falls outside our known languages.
I don't know about you, but I'd be frozen in fear.
I would be terrified.
They said it felt like those voices were right over their tent, just babbling away. And then, just as suddenly, they vanished.
The silence, imagine that moment, the abrupt silence after such an intense auditory experience.
I bet it was jarring.
It must have been incredibly jarring.
No kidding. Ethan and Danny were so spooked they packed up and left first thing in the morning, never to return to that beach.
It really is a testament to the power of the unexplained.
Totally.
Even seasoned campers like them can be shaken to their core when they're confronted with something that fundamentally challenges their understanding of the world.
For sure. Speaking of unsettling experiences, our next story takes us from the coastal forests of Vancouver Island to the mountains of Utah.
Okay.
This time, it's not about strange sounds, but mysterious symbols and a creeping sense of dread.
Symbols have always held a powerful sway over the human psyche.
I can see that.
They can evoke these deep-seated emotions, cultural associations, and even primal fears. And in this case, the symbols our listener encountered, they take on this particularly unsettling quality, especially in the context of the wilderness.
For sure. This story comes from Kylie, who loves exploring the forests near Salt Lake City.
Okay.
She'd been hiking solo in these woods and had come across some odd things like piles of animal bones, strange symbols carved into trees.
Oh.
Things that made her feel like she was being watched.
That feeling of being observed in an unseen presence, that's a recurring theme in these wilderness encounters I've noticed.
It's like the hairs on the back of your neck stand up.
Yes,
It's
exactly.
a warning.
It taps into this primal fear of predators, both real and imagined. And it often precedes, more disturbing events.
So one day, Kylie decides to bring her friend Josh along to show him what she's been finding. And that's when things get really weird.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
They're hiking along and they stumble upon a clearing. And there, in the middle of the clearing, is a severed deer head.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it's arranged on top of a pentagram made of sticks, and it's surrounded by deer legs. Kylie is certain these things weren't there before.
September 15th. This is the date that our listener specifically mentions, as if it's etched in her memory.
Yeah.
It suggests that this particular hike was fundamentally different, more impactful than the others.
Right. The appearance of that severed deer head and the pentagram, it adds a whole new dimension to this encounter.
It does.
I mean, those symbols, especially in this context, they're laden with potential meanings. The pentagram, for example, has a long and complex history.
Oh, absolutely. It's associated with both pagan and occult beliefs.
I was wondering about that. Does it, mean something specific, or is it more about the general creepiness factor?
Well, it's both. The pentagram itself can have different interpretations depending on its orientation and context.
Right.
But in this case, combined with the severed deer head and the meticulous arrangement, it suggests something deliberate.
Okay, that's way creepier than just finding some random graffiti in the woods.
Yeah, exactly. It raises questions about who might be engaging in these activities and for what purpose. It hints at this hidden world operating just beneath the surface of our everyday reality.
And if the symbols weren't enough, as the sun begins to set, they realize they're lost.
Oh.
Now they're wandering through the woods in the dark, using their phone flashlights to try and find their way back to the car.
Being lost in the wilderness, especially as darkness falls, is a primal fear in itself.
Oh yeah.
It triggers the sense of vulnerability and disorientation, and it amplifies any existing anxieties about the unknown.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And Kylie had already been feeling uneasy in these woods. Now they start hearing the trees and bushes rustling around them, but there's no wind.
Oh no.
And then they hear this scream.
Here we have another example of a sound that defies easy categorization.
It's chilling.
The listener describes it as neither human nor animal, which immediately places it outside our realm of experience and understanding.
Kylie just starts running, but Josh glances over his shoulder and claims to see this large, dark figure following them. They eventually make it back to the car and don't waste any time getting out of there.
The sighting of that dark figure, it confirms their fears.
Right.
It solidifies that sense that they were being watched, pursued, perhaps by something unknown.
That's so creepy.
It transforms the encounter from an unsettling experience to a full-blown flight for survival.
After that, Kylie did some digging and found reports of both cult activity and unexplained disappearances in that same area. And just like Ethan and Danny, she never went back to those woods.
So we have these symbols, the feeling of being watched, the unexplained sound, and then the sighting of a shadowy figure.
Right.
Taken individually, these elements might have mundane explanations, but together they form a pattern that is both intriguing and deeply unsettling.
It makes you wonder what else might be out there hidden in the shadows, just beyond our perception. But before we delve too far into the darkness, let's shift gears to a different kind of mystery.
Okay.
One steeped in history and the chilling remnants of wartime secrets.
I'm ready for it.
This next story takes us to Germany, where two friends exploring an abandoned military zone stumble upon something truly chilling.
Okay.
A reminder that the past can sometimes leave behind echoes that resonate far into the present.
I love that imagery, the echoes of the past.
Yeah, it sends chills down my spine.
Mine too.
So these two friends are hiking through the woods in former East German territory, and they come across these strange periscope-like pipes sticking out of the ground.
Oh, those are interesting.
Yeah, curiosity gets the better of them, so they start poking around and they discover this hidden doorway covered by a wooden lid.
Abandoned structures, particularly those with military connections, often hold a certain allure for people, don't they? They represent a break in the fabric of our known world,
A little peek behind the curtain.
Yeah, exactly. A portal to a past that's shrouded in secrecy.
And in this case, what they find beneath that lid is a portal to a whole other level of creepy.
Okay, I'm all ears.
It's a massive, abandoned army bunker. Just a labyrinth of tunnels and rooms stretching deep underground.
The very architecture of a bunker is designed to create a sense of isolation,
Right, to be cut off from the outside world.
Yeah, exactly. And in this context, the feeling of unease is almost built into the structure itself.
Yeah, it's like you're entering a place that was meant to keep people out.
Right, and that's where things can get really interesting.
So as they venture deeper into the bunker, they start to find strange things. German writing on the walls. Some of it translates to help.
Oh no.
There are flooded rooms that smell like sewage. They even found a large room with this bizarre machine in the center.
The decaying state of the bunker, those cryptic messages, that lingering odor of decay, all contribute to a growing sense of dread, you know?
Right.
It's like stepping into a nightmare where the boundaries between the past and present begin to blur.
Yeah, it's like the bunker itself is trying to tell them something.
Perhaps warning.
And then they find something that sends shivers down their spines. A message scrawled on the wall that reads, "Hello, Satan, I love you."
That's chilling.
Yeah, it goes beyond just being creepy. It's like a glimpse into a disturbed mind.
It injects a supernatural element into an already unsettling environment.
Yeah.
You know?
Totally.
It suggests a deliberate invocation of something dark, something beyond the realm of human comprehension.
And as if that wasn't enough, they also find a single shoe stuck in the mud, like someone had abandoned it in a hurry.
The single shoe, it's such a poignant detail.
Right. What happened there?
It tells a story of a hasty departure, perhaps even panic. It makes you wonder what happened in that bunker. You know, what events led to someone fleeing in such a state?
They never do find out what the bunker was used for or who wrote those chilling messages.
Right.
They get out of there as fast as their legs can carry them and never go back.
It's a reminder that some mysteries are best left unsolved. Sometimes the act of uncovering the truth can be more unsettling than the mystery itself.
Yeah, that's a good point. Okay, I need a moment to catch my breath after that one. But before we move on, you mentioned that abandoned structures can be alluring. Is there like a psychological reason for that?
I think there's a certain fascination with the unknown, with places that have been forgotten or abandoned.
Yeah.
These places offer a glimpse into a different time, a different reality. They allow us to explore the fringes of our comfort zones and confront our fears, you know, in a controlled environment.
I guess there's a thrill in that, a sense of adventure mixed with a healthy dose of fear.
Exactly. It's a way to test our limits to see how far we can go before we turn back.
But speaking of fear, our next story brings us a little closer to home with an encounter that will have you looking over your shoulder on your next hike.
Okay, lay it on me.
This one comes from Bill, an avid hiker who was visiting his brother in upstate New York near a town called Downsville. It was late fall. The leaves were turning, a perfect setting for a peaceful hike.
The beauty and serenity of nature can often be deceptive, can it?
Oh, absolutely.
It's easy to forget that the wilderness is also a place of wildness, of unpredictability.
Right, where the veneer of civilization can quickly fade away.
Exactly.
So Bill is enjoying his hike on this secluded trail when he spots a duffel bag just sitting there in the middle of the path. It's a newer looking bag, not like it's been out in the elements for long, but there's this awful rotten smell coming from it.
The duffel bag immediately introduces an element of mystery and suspense, you know?
It just doesn't belong.
Yeah, it's out of place, incongruous with the natural surroundings, and the foul odor hints at something unpleasant, perhaps even dangerous.
Bill's hesitant to open it, but he knows he has to check, you know, just in case.
Of course.
But just as he's about to unzip the bag, he hears someone approaching. And out of the woods comes this large man looking pretty rough. He tells Bill, "That's mine. Please don't touch it."
The sudden appearance of another person in this isolated setting immediately raises suspicions, you know?
Oh, yeah, red flag.
And the man's appearance and his possessive tone add to the unsettling atmosphere.
The man claims it's just his kill from a hunting trip. But Bill's not buying it.
Why not?
Who uses a duffel bag to store a fresh kill?
That's a good point.
And that smell. It was way too strong, way too soon for a recent kill.
Bill's skepticism is entirely warranted, you know?
Yeah, it seems off.
The man's explanation is riddled with inconsistencies, and his demeanor suggests that he's hiding something.
Right. It's at this point that the encounter shifts from unsettling to potentially dangerous.
Definitely a cause for concern.
Bill's definitely creeped out, and the guy knows it.
Yeah.
He picks up the duffel bag and just stares at Bill for a moment, like he's trying to gauge Bill's reaction.
It's a power play, you
Yeah,
know,
right.
the subtle but effective way of asserting dominance and control. The man is making it clear that he's not to be trifled with.
Bill decides to just get out of there fast.
Yeah.
He starts walking briskly down the trail, trying to put some distance between himself and this creepy dude.
I don't blame him.
But he keeps hearing the crunching of leaves behind him like he's being followed.
Oh no.
He keeps glancing back but doesn't see anyone. He tries to call his brother for help, but there's no cell reception out in the woods.
Isolation and vulnerability, those are recurring themes in these stories, aren't they?
It is.
That inability to call for help. It heightens the sense of danger. It emphasizes Bill's reliance on his own instincts and resourcefulness.
And then he sees him. The man from the duffel bag is back, and he's definitely following Bill, hiding behind trees, trying to stay out of sight.
This is getting scary.
Bill takes off running. He's terrified. His heart is pounding. He just wants to get away from this guy.
Yeah.
He comes to an abandoned house and manages to get inside.
The abandoned house, it becomes a symbol of both refuge and vulnerability, doesn't it?
Oh, for sure.
It offers a temporary hiding place, but it also traps Bill in a confined space with a potential threat lurking outside.
He hides under a cot in one of the bedrooms, trying to catch his breath. And then he hears the back door open. Heavy footsteps. The man from the duffel bag is inside the house.
Oh my gosh.
He's searching frantically, going from room to room, getting closer and closer to where Bill's hiding.
The suspense is killing me.
He comes into the bedroom where Bill's hiding, but luckily he doesn't look under the cottage. Bill hears him leave the house, slamming the door behind him.
What a close call.
But Bill's not taking any chances. He stays hidden for another half hour just to be safe.
He's smart to be cautious. It's a testament to his composure that he's able to think clearly under such duress.
Right. His decision to remain hidden demonstrates a keen awareness of the potential danger.
Absolutely.
Finally, when it starts getting dark, Bill decides he has to make a run for it. He finds an old dirt driveway that leads out to the road and eventually manages to flag down a passing car.
Thank goodness.
He goes back to his brother's house and immediately calls the police. They take a report, but they never find the man with the duffel bag.
The mystery of the duffel bag and its contents remains unsolved. It adds a layer of unsettling ambiguity to the story, leaving us with a lingering sense of unease.
What I find so disturbing about this encounter is that it takes place in a seemingly familiar and safe setting. It reminds us that even in places we consider ordinary, there's always the potential for something unexpected, something unsettling to occur.
That's a key takeaway from many of these stories. The wilderness, even in its most serene forms, always holds an element of the unknown. It's a place where the rules of civilization can be suspended and where we are confronted with the raw power of nature and the depths of human experience.
And sometimes those depths can be pretty dark.
Indeed, they can.
But on that note, let's move on to our final story, which takes us back to the realm of the unexplained. We're heading to another abandoned bunker, but this time it's not what's inside that's scary, it's what's outside.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Tell me more.
This one comes from Mark. He and a friend were urban exploring, checking out abandoned buildings.
Okay.
And they stumbled across this massive concrete bunker, like totally sealed up, no doors, no windows, nothing.
The image of this impenetrable bunker is fascinating. It really speaks to our human desire to create boundaries, you know?
To control our environment.
Yeah, exactly. To control our environment and perhaps even to hide from the unknown.
Totally. And in this case, the unknown seems to be hiding right back.
Okay, interesting.
They spent hours walking around it trying to find a way in, but nothing. It was getting late, so they decided to head out.
There's a sense of frustration there, I imagine.
Oh, yeah.
The bunker becomes a symbol of the unattainable, you know?
Right.
The forbidden knowledge that lies just beyond our grasp.
Absolutely. It's like that feeling when you're a kid and you see a do not enter sign and suddenly you have to know what's behind it.
I know exactly what you mean.
But as they're walking away, they hear this loud, metallic clang, like a giant door slamming shut.
That sudden sound, it's key here.
It's like a warning.
Yeah, it disrupts the silence, jolting them back to a heightened state of awareness. It's a classic element of suspense, signaling a shift in the atmosphere and foreshadowing something unexpected.
And get this. On the side of the bunker that was completely blank just moments ago, there's now a massive steel door, wide open, with stairs leading down into darkness.
It's as if the bunker itself has responded to their curiosity,
Right.
offering them an invitation at the very moment they decide to leave.
It's so creepy.
The appearance of the door is a brilliant example of what we call a liminal event. You know?
There's that word again, liminal.
Right.
It keeps popping up in these stories.
It does, doesn't it? And it's more than just a spooky word.
So what does it mean?
Liminality is a concept that's central to understanding a lot of paranormal experiences. It refers to a state of being in between,
Okay.
a threshold where boundaries are blurred and the familiar rules no longer apply.
So like dusk, that time between day and night, that's a liminal time.
Exactly. And these abandoned structures, forgotten places, they also hold this liminal quality. They're in between states of decay and renewal, existing outside of our normal routines and expectations.
Which would explain why they're so creepy.
Right. They make us feel off-kilter like anything could happen.
And that brings us back to Mark and his friend. They've been drawn to this liminal space, this impenetrable bunker. And now it seems to be beckoning them inside.
But are they going to go in?
Here's the thing. They're both too freaked out to even think about going in. They just turn and run as fast as they can.
Which, in a way, is the most rational response. Sometimes the wisest course of action is to acknowledge the fear, to respect the unknown, and to retreat from a situation that feels inherently dangerous.
It's like their intuition is screaming, nope, not today, Satan.
Perhaps. But what's fascinating is that they never went back to that bunker, and they never found out what was behind that door. The mystery remains unsolved, adding to the power of the experience.
It's like a real-life horror movie with an open ending. You're left wondering, what if they had gone inside? What would they have found?
And that's the beauty of these stories, you know? They
Sure.
tap into our primal fears or fascination with the unknown, and they leave us with lingering questions about the nature of reality itself.
Right, we may never know the answers. So what have we learned from this deep dive into the strange and unsettling folklore? We've explored accounts of mysterious voices in the Canadian wilderness, unexplained symbols in the Utah mountains, a chilling encounter with a stranger and his duffel bag, and not one but two abandoned bunkers that seem to have minds of their own.
What these stories highlight is that the line between the ordinary and the extraordinary is often quite thin.
It really is.
A simple camping trip, a hike in the woods, even a walk through an abandoned building can become a doorway to the unexpected, the inexplicable.
It's like the world is full of these hidden layers, and sometimes we catch a glimpse of what lies beneath the surface.
Precisely. And these glimpses, however unsettling they are, can also be incredibly enriching. They challenge our assumptions, expand our perspectives, and remind us that the universe is far more complex and wondrous than we can ever fully grasp.
I think that's a great note to end on. The world is full of mysteries, and it's up to us to decide how we approach them with fear, curiosity, or perhaps a healthy dose of both.
Indeed. And who knows, perhaps one day we'll have the answers to some of these mysteries. But until then, let's embrace the unknown, keep exploring, and keep sharing these stories that remind us that the world is a stranger and more wonderful place than we could ever imagine.